What if just one big thing, one big approach could finally help you overcome all these different obstacles in your utility to get back in control of your capital projects, your budgets, your processes, your people, your failing infrastructure, something to bring it all together and help you get back in control? Well, today in 2025, it's never been harder to run a water utility. We've got the framework, the data to support that. You probably have already been feeling that as you're managing and running your water utility. But here today to share with you really what's causing that and then a solution or path forward and how to overcome that. I'm Andrew Swirsky, the founder of InfraSync Technology Services. Started this company with one main focus, one main driver, and that's to help make water safe, affordable, and abundant for all of our communities around the US. We want to do that using technology, or rather technology-enabled utilities. So as an industry, we've got 5 major forces working against us. Let me sketch this out for us real quick. So the first we've got is just the older infrastructure, these treatment plants. Most of these were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So depending on where you are as a country, you've probably got failing infrastructure. A lot of people call it aged. I just call it obsolete. So that's one of the first main issues impacting us as an industry. The second, we've got a very great but aging workforce. So we've got these great utility operators, men and women that have been running these utilities faithfully for years, but they're starting to retire and they're taking a lot of this institutional knowledge with them, which is making it harder and harder for us to run these systems without as many people or as well-trained people. The next issue we're dealing with, and this is really at the state and federal level, is the funding. As an industry, we used to get between 20 and 30% of our funding from the federal government for our capital projects and infrastructure. That number is down. Last I saw it was in that 8 to 12% range. Some states have stepped up and started to support that with supplemental funding, but we're still suffering as an industry. We don't have the federal funding and the support we used to, which is causing a lot of issues. The next one we've got really just comes down to the weather. So we've got whether you live in, no pun intended, whether you live in a desert or a swamp, we are getting more severe events and we have more people living in the way of those events. We've got millions, tens of millions of people living in deserts, swamps along the coast that are susceptible to climate impacts and weather impacts more than ever before. And then the final one is really just the ongoing long list of regulations. So whether it's the lead and copper rules, the PFAS issues, other things going on, there's more and more things we have to do as the utility industry in order to stay compliant. So those are the 5 main forces impacting us as the industry. And what those are all resulting in, you bring them all together, and that's really placing a burden on you as the utility, but then also your ratepayers and their families. So then you're stuck with an option. Do you work to keep rates down and affordable? And if so, then you're going to be over here on the cheap but risky side as a utility, and that you're trying to balance the cost of the system and keep things as cheap or as affordable as possible for the families, but that opens up risk for utility. Or are you going to pivot over here towards more of the expensive but safe solutions for all these issues coming up? And what that means is that the individual residents, the ratepayers, they've got to pay more in their water bills, or you've got to go find money from somewhere. So these 5 forces, the aging infrastructure, the retiring workforce, the decrease in federal funding, the weather and climate impacts, the additional regulations, are all resulting in an affordability crisis for the lower and the middle classes. The cost of water is increasing quickly and really placing a lot of utilities in a difficult place as they struggle with, do we pass all of these costs on to our ratepayers, or how do we manage this as a utility? Thankfully, I think we've got a great solution or path forward. Started working in this industry well over a decade ago. Civil engineering background, learned to solve issues with steel and concrete. Worked for some of the largest engineering firms when we would have issues, there's always a way to build a bigger treatment plant, a bigger pipeline in order to overcome these issues as utilities. After that, I thought, well, I think we're going to run out of money for just building as big of capital projects as we want to. So then I went to go work for the largest water technology company in the world for about 3 years, learning everything on the sensors, the software, the databases, the integrations, all the technology side. Really, what I learned shocked me is that I was living in two different worlds. There's really two different worlds that exist in the industry, and they really aren't coming together in the way that they should. So what I mean by that is we've got two worlds. We've got the physical, and so that is the treatment plants, the pipelines, the meters, back to the pipelines, back to the treatment plants, and then eventually out to the source waters. This was the world I lived in when I worked for a regular engineering firm, focused on what are we doing with steel and concrete to solve issues. And then I went over to work more on the technology side, and that's when I looked at the digital system. So that's the digital system. So that starts with the sensors, the communications, so cellular, satellite radio, the databases, then finally the software. So all the models, now the AI, the digital twins, and how we're bringing all that together. And so what I noticed is we are solving these issues almost in parallel, but not quite together. So we've got our physical system, which we can use steel, concrete to solve almost any issue, but the problem is it's expensive. And on the digital side, you're actually really limited in your ability to solve real world issues, but it's so much cheaper on the digital side to implement systems. And so we've got an approach today that we can use, and that's a integrated approach. So if you bridge the gap and design these systems in parallel, these digital and physical systems, then all of a sudden you've got something called a smart utility approach. And that's the approach that dozens of utilities are taking. This is what's enabling them to go from having to decide, are we going to keep it safe and not risky but expensive? Are we going to go and make things just really expensive, but we know it's going to be really safe and durable for everything we have going on? Now there's this third option. You can have both. With the smart utility approach, you can design your physical and your digital systems together to unlock a whole lot of value for you as a utility. This enables you as a utility to look at your treatment plants, your pipelines, and your capital projects and say, what are we looking on the horizon? What's needed? What can we do from the digital side to bring in support data to make our best decisions? If we can reduce water loss from 10% or from 20% down to 10%, can we extend a treatment plant expansion out another 5 years? Can we save a few $1,000,000 on a treatment plant expansion? Can we save tens or hundreds of millions of dollars? I've used this approach across utilities all over America. So where I live in Houston to Miami, Florida, utilities in Indiana, Arkansas, North Carolina, Louisiana, dozens more. Could walk you through all these in a call. Happy to share details. No one utility really got a lot of this started a long time ago, South Bend, Indiana. They saved over $400 million by taking the smart utility approach. And that was by controlling the flows in their wastewater system. They were really able to reduce the treatment plant and the storage needs, all by using the smart utility approach. And so that, yes, they didn't eliminate the need for physical infrastructure, but they designed a hybrid physical and digital supporting system that saved them tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars on their physical infrastructure. If this sounds like an approach that makes sense for you as a utility, well, you've already made it this far in the video, so you're obviously interested in taking the next step or learning more about it. What that typically looks like is you just need more information. You're not even ready to make a decision or a commitment yet. You need more information, more data. And so whether you're a wastewater utility or drinking water utility, the next step is typically fill out a quick form here on this webpage. We're happy to help you do a quick assessment or evaluation, see what has merit, what the big thing in your system to focus on is, and then we can take you through that approach An evaluation for your system, is it really going to come down to water quality, water loss, sewer overflow, sewer I&I? What's the big performance issue you have as a utility that you can come in and design a digital infrastructure layer to support your physical infrastructure layer? Um, that's what we focus on at InfraSync Technology Services. We've got engineers, former utility operators, data engineers, professional engineers. So that whole spectrum for the physical and the digital side, not just in theory, but in practice. That's what we specialize in. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and let us know how we can take the next step. That's usually just a quick virtual call or meeting. Make sure this concept makes sense to you, what questions you have, and then from there, you can really start to get enough information on how to make an informed decision on how to move forward.